Once a week, no. And plus being sick. Oh, man. Being slightly after 6 o'clock. Being slightly after 6. Let's begin this meeting. It is the first meeting of the First Prize Center Redevelopment Overlay Zoning and District Planning for the lot of Bridge there. My name is Guy Roller, and I'm the planning board attorney. How did I get here? I'll tell you in a moment. In February of 2020, City of Albany and the town of Colony entered into an intermunicipal agreement on what things do with the state statute to address the 32 acres that we all know as the First Prize factory center, whatever it was. And it has a very jagged, I'll even call it a remote border that gives about half those acres to the city and half to Colony. That intermunicipal agreement created a 5-person planning. It's also a 5-person zoning board. Not interested in that yet. Planning board is a front work on the front end. And the planning board, it also indicated that the planning board attorney, town of Colony, would be the planning board attorney for the zone, overlay zoning district, and that's me, Guy Roller. It also provided five particular members, 2 of whom would be appointed by the city of Albany. And they are Martin Hall, sits at the end, Martin. And Vanessa Galliard, who's not from here yet, she, okay. The 2 town appointees are Stephen Hyder, we'll wave there, and Craig Shanley. And the provision, the municipal agreement provided the town and the city to jointly appoint the fifth, and that's Mark Stiglitz. Something like that. Is that close enough? You got it? Mark's also the executive director of Capital Distribution Regional Planning Commission, so he's got a lot of experience in these things. Also with us tonight are Bradley Glass, who's a planner in the city of Albany, sits with Jocelyn Justfall, also a planner, and Sean McGuire, as the planner in Colony, head of the Planning and Economic Development Department. In addition to that, each municipality has separately adopted zoning statute that applies to this new district, and they're identical, absolutely identical. There's no public comment tonight, but the board is in its discretion can adopt an agenda that allows it in the future. The first item on the agenda is the nomination and election of chairperson of the five, which was here because it's kind of important. But I don't know what you wanted to be. Amy, Mark, did you know whether she wanted to be considered? Not familiar with that. No, most for it. Any nominees for chairperson?
Nominee Steve Hyde.
That's okay.
Any other nominees? Steve, you okay with this nomination?
Thank you.
Mark. I vote yay. Mark.
Yay.
Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Chairperson. Before I leave the podium, I'd like to try to arrange for it. Yeah. An alternate chair. Might step in case the chair is unlimited. Martin, Paul, would you accept that?
Yes.
How do you vote, Martin?
I mean, the second.
Yes.
I'll take the nomination and I vote Nancy.
And he votes yea. Or voting yea. Eddie, right?
Yeah.
All right. And we'll have to tell Vanessa what's back. I don't know whether she wanted to be considered, but we have to move with the meeting along. With that, I'll turn the meeting over to the newly elected chairperson.
Good evening, everybody. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Rather than holding the microphone in front of my face, it's easier to talk about this. What we did tonight is we made sure that we had the presentation up first. We have a lot of bureaucratic things as a committee that we have to do, very formula type stuff that you may not want to hang around all night for. You won't offend us if you leave, you won't offend us if you stay. It was a very open meeting, we believe in transparency, but it's in terms of record keeping, meeting dates, meeting times, how we want to handle certain things. So you're free to stay at that point, but you're also free to go. I want to thank the board for my nomination and your second and all that. Thank you very much. And I think at this point, there's no sense waiting any longer. Consider Mr. Wimala. His name will make a short presentation on, future of the first part center.
Chairman, thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for everybody coming tonight, and thanks to the board for volunteering time because they are volunteers. My name is Bill Howard. I'm the president and founding partner of Redevelopment Capital. With me is Greg O'Shea, our counsel from Mike Osterman, Dan Hirschberg, our civil engineer from Hirschberg, and Aaron Tomchak, who's our development associate in-house. So what I'm going to do, probably take 10, 15 minutes. We went through the entire public hearing process with the zoning years ago, but I recognize some faces, don't recognize some others. I'll just give a quick background, then do an overview of the plan, and also kind of the demand for the different uses. I apologize, it's not the greatest angle, but the board needs to see this, and you guys need to see it, so we kind of did the best we could. I don't know if it's easier to see from over there, but you guys can all see it.
If you want to tilt that a little bit more.
Okay.
But there, you can still see it.
You guys will do that.
That make it better for you guys?
Help out? Okay, good. So, like I said, it's great to be here tonight in a public setting. We're really at the last step before we can start construction of the redevelopment of the First Prize Center and bring the property back to life. As we all know, that language has a blight and decrepit eyesore for decades. We've been working for well over 5 years to get here tonight. We were able to work with, as Guy Romer, the board attorney had mentioned, we worked with the town board of Colony, the city of Albany Common Council to adopt a first prize center redevelopment overlay zoning district that allows the plan that we're advancing tonight. We also worked, as Guy had mentioned, with the town board and the common council to adopt an intermunicipal agreement with Albany and Colony that established this board that will oversee the final site plan review in an efficient manner. And as Guy had said, we're here with this board because half the sites in the city of Albany, half is in Colony. But we are here tonight. It's a great example of regionalism and intergovernment cooperation between Colony and Albany. It's not something you see much. We spent the last almost 2 years demolishing all of the decayed building on the property. And everybody here is obviously familiar with the site. It was really no small task. We were dealing with 5 feet thick reinforced concrete walls, all laden with hazardous materials. And we have about 500,000 square feet of building. So I'm proud to stand here and say that we have been able to get to a place where no one has, which is get rid of the eyesore that literally and figuratively loomed over West Albany, as well as that was really just a black eye in the entire capital region. So with that said, let's get to the plan and look at the property, or the plan for the property that's going to help reinvigorate not just the neighborhood, really West Albany as a whole. And the development plan that you're looking at, it's a variety of mix of uses. It's primarily residential because we're in a primarily residential neighborhood. But given the proximity to the highway with an exit right here, the mixed use plan also has a hotel, has food and beverage space, has some office space, which is co-working shared space, as well as wellness, fitness, recreation, and multifamily residential. So we're basically broken down into 4 distinct phases. So as I kind of go through this, we'll show you phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each phase will be outlined in red. So Aaron, if you want to go to the site plan, phase 1. So that is phase 1. Phase 1 consists of a total of 352 residential units in 6 buildings, and then it has a mixed-use building. The residential buildings are a mix of 3 different building types. They're either 40, 60, or 76 units, and each building has a similar design and a common theme. So the next slide is the elevation of the residential building, and they're all designed the same. You have the ground floor of every building is enclosed parking for the residents. Obviously, in-building enclosed parking is a desired amenity, not just for security, but also for living in the Northeast in a rather cold climate. Above the parking on the first floor is 4 stories of residential. The buildings all have interior corridors. They all have elevators, and that's really for the combination of safety and convenience. Each residence is designed similarly to what we build. This is what we do for a living. We build really top of the market multifamily residential communities. They all have a high-end, well-appointed finish, private patios and balconies, high efficiency heating and cooling, which is obviously very important these days, upscale kitchen and bath packages. So what we do for a living basically is we build a top tier multifamily residences in the area. Part of some other things we do too. So when you look at what we're going to build, oh, hi, Vanessa. Vanessa Guiar, the 5th member, 5th board member. Only a few minutes in. So that's the residential component of phase 1. Phase 1 also has a mixed use building, and as the name implies, it contains a variety of different commercial uses. It's going to have a cafe with food and beverage service consisting of kind of light fare wrap sandwiches, shakes, smoothies, coffees, and teas and the like. It'll have a wellness center that has a full service fitness center in it, as well as studio rooms for practices like yoga, Pilates. It'll also have recreational amenities such as golf simulators, bowling alleys, movie theater. It will also have, importantly, co-working office share space, which is kind of a collaborative social working environment, shared offices, as well as private offices and conference rooms. There'll also be an outdoor recreational aspect to this building, which will be a pool surrounded by fire pits, grilling stations, and seating gatherings. Phase one also has a really large, if you go back to it, Aaron, a really large green space right at the entrance. So what you're looking at, the top of that site is Exchange Street. The bottom of that slide is the rail line, I-90 underneath it. And if you look on the left side of phase one, that's almost 2 acres of a green gathering area. That's going to be part of phase one. Okay, so phase two. Phase two is to the left of phase one. Phase two is the same size as phase one, 352 residential units. And just like phase one, the buildings are a mix of the 3 building types, again, containing either the 40, 60, or 76 units. And when you look at the elevation, that shows the same building as phase one. You have phase one and phase two look alike, so you have a continuity between not just the interiors of the building, but also the exteriors of the building. So it has a pleasing continuity of a residential community. Like phase one, phase two also has a really large green gathering space, and that's right in between the buildings on top and the buildings below. That's actually larger than phase one. That's over 2 acres. So between phase one and phase two, you have about 4 acres of green space where you're going to have people gather and socialize, events, etc. Phase three. Phase three is all the way to the right, so that is right on the corner of Exchange and Everett, just off the highway. Phase three consists of a 185-room hotel. This hotel will also contain a food and beverage service, so it'll provide different options for food and beverage apart from the cafe and the multifamily building for the residents who live here. And as you can see there, also next to the hotel is a centralized green space. So even though this is a high density site, and that's what was called for in the overlay zoning district that was adopted by the common council of the town, it's also important to have green space, gathering areas, and separation between the buildings. Phase four. Nope. Back. Oh, sorry about that. You're right. And that's just a rendering of a 4-story hotel, similar to that. So phase four is all the way to the left. That's the final phase. That is by the ball fields. That is 2 60-unit buildings for a total of 120 residential units. And those buildings are just like the buildings in phase residential buildings in 1 and 2. Again, to have continuity inside. So when you look at the site as a whole, all 4 phases that have been built out over time, you have the redevelopment consists of 824 residential units, the mixed-use building of the various commercial uses that I previously described, as well as the hotel that also contains food and beverage services. So just that's what's in it. So now let's talk about the site design. The site design has the center boulevard streetscape right through the middle, which is really the focal point of the design. The vast majority of the parking is either under the building on the first floor, as I said before, or set behind the buildings. And this facilitates pedestrian-friendly streetscape through the center of the site. As you can see, we pulled the buildings off of Exchange Street. I mean, you guys remember the old building was literally right on Exchange Street. And as I said before, it loomed over the neighborhood. So we wanted to pull the buildings off of Exchange Street. So really you have walkability, connectivity of the site design. It fosters a sense of security. As I mentioned before, the open space, the green space, it's a key element to the site design. So when you put together all the gathering areas, all the green space, the co-working office space, all the amenities that I mentioned in the mixed-use building, the community really becomes, true live, work, and play environment, which you don't have a lot of really true live, work, and play environments in Albany County, the capital region, and this will be one of them. So next is the overall redevelopment. Let me just say a few words on how this plan reflects what governs this plan, which is the overlay zoning district that's previously been adopted. All of the uses that you're seeing here are permitted by the overlay zoning district, as is the size and the amount of the various uses. Really the controlling factors of the zoning regarding The amount of development is height. You can actually build all the way up to 185 feet here. We're only proposing going up to 65, so we're well under that. And the other thing you have to do per the zoning code is really respect a development envelope and a development buffer that goes around the entire site, which is what we did here. So while we could build more, we're not. We feel what we have here is a good mix between high density that was contemplated by the zoning code, but also livable, functional redevelopment that has various uses. The overlay zoning district, it was definitely drafted to take the surrounding sites into consideration, respect that, and that's what this plan does. And importantly, what this site does is it boards suburban sprawl. This is sustainability. This is smart growth development. This is taking a brownfield site, terrible set of buildings that was just obviously not very good for property values and the like, and turning it into something that's going to bring energy and reinvigorate not just the neighborhood, but really West Albany as a whole, and good for the capital region. It also brings significant employment opportunities, increased governmental revenues to both the city and the town. And I mentioned property values. This will certainly help property values throughout the site. So I'll wrap it up by just talking about the demand for the uses. COVID changed the world, and 3 years into it, real estate did not escape this impact at all. There's certain uses, pandemic, simply made not feasible development, and ones that made fixes. First, retail, brick and mortar stores were on life support before COVID, and COVID was really the last nail in the coffin of that land use. Restaurants, we all know COVID has not been kind to restaurants. Many have closed, people's routines have changed, they're not going out like they used to, but we still feel it's very important to have food and beverage service for the people who live here in the overall redevelopment plan. That's why we have a cafe and mixed-use building, as well as food and beverage and hotel that comes out of later phase. Office, COVID devastated the traditional office market, and that continues to this day as people still are working from home or on a hybrid schedule where they go in 1 or 2 days a week. But we have to get the development going, the redevelopment going. We want to, and we know the one use that has not been negatively impacted through COVID is multifamily residential. And we know having that as the main component of this plan, this redevelopment will succeed even during these economic times that are getting more uncertain by the day. Multifamily, with respect to the capital region, we own and manage over 1,000 residential units. Prior to the pandemic, our occupancies were in the mid 90%. Since COVID and existing to this day, we're full and we have waiting lists. In this market, the supply of multifamily housing just has not kept up with the demand. That demand comes from a few areas. First of all, seniors. We have a lot of seniors who live with us who don't want the cost and the expense and the work of their single family house that they've had forever. They want to stay around their kids. They want to stay around their grandkids. And our apartments are what they choose. And we actually have some seniors who went out of Florida for a few months, and while they're gone, we water their plants, we take care of their homes. On the other end of the spectrum it's younger people. They, just like seniors, want nothing to do with the cost of the work of a single family home. And they also want to stay flexible where they live. They want to stay in this area, or they can come to this area, and they want to be able to have the flexibility, relocation, job transfer, etc. With respect to this site, particularly, not just the capital region market as a whole, which I just talked about, this site, as we all know, it's the bullseye. It's the center of the capital region. Minutes from downtown Albany one way, the Albany Nano Complex the other way. New Albany is right there. Within the 3-mile ring, you literally have over 1 million square foot of office space. All the amenities of the region's largest town, which is Colony. So what does that mean? It means you're proximate to employers, proximate to economic centers, to higher educational institutions, and population hubs. This site also is proximate to various transportation modes. You have the train station 10 minutes that way, you have the airport 10 minutes that way, you have the I-90, which is the most heavily traveled highway in the region, and 5 minutes down the road, you have where I-90 and 87 come together. So, what you have here is a site where people will want to live, whether it's stay at a hotel, for those reasons. One other thing that I wanted to mention is just what's happening in this market, because we're seeing it. The demand for housing, the demand for hotel that's coming back is the nanotechnology sector. The Albany Nanotechnology Complex is one exit away from the site. It's the highest level nanotechnology R&D in the entire world that takes place here. It has the largest global semiconductor companies that are all housed here. It brings in people literally from all over the world and the country, and we see it because they live with us in our communities. And significantly, one mile away at the Nano Complex, it's on track to be named the headquarters for the National Semiconductor Technology Center. And what that's doing is saying enough of having chips made overseas, they need to be made in America. And when that is the hub of this federal center 1 mile away, that's a big deal. That brings a lot of people in this area, just like it did when the Foundry was first built and when the Nanotech complex was first built. And we know because these people live with us. And they're people who live here and want to stay here. They're people who come in literally from all over the country and more. That's the reason Global Foundries is building phase 2. You also have 10 minutes down the road in the Vista Tech Park in Slinglands. Plug Power just opened its massive hydrogen green fuel manufacturing campus. 500,000 feet. It's going to employ 2,000 people. Again, that's the technology sector that is really growing this area where you have more of a need now than ever for good quality places to live, for good quality places to stay on a temporary basis if they're coming to a hotel. That's your demand for multifamily. It's very, very strong and only getting stronger for those reasons. The co-working office space, the use of co-working office space has really substantially increased since the pandemic, all through the way companies function. As I mentioned, a lot of people still work from home, and a lot of companies are moving to this hybrid schedule where you go in 1 or 2 days a week. That has led to a demand for co-working space where people don't want to be in their house 5 days a week. They want to go somewhere, but they don't have an office to go to. So we create office space for these people to come and work in a co-working atmosphere. The demand for the hotel, we have some hoteliers here. The demand, hotels are really hurt by COVID. It's coming back, albeit slowly. That's why we still have a hospitality component to this mixed-use redevelopment, but it's in a later phase. And I guess, with that, I just want to thank everybody for coming. We're excited to start the site plan review process so we can get a shovel in the ground and bring the property back to life. It's surely needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Just so everybody's slightly aware of the schedule here. This is certainly a first read look at the plan. In the February meeting, they'll be here before to offer their official application for the project that come before us. At that time, also the seeker, which is the environmental review, will be talked about. The engineers that are here tonight, we're hoping to move an engineering firm that will represent this board in its negotiations and talk about how this project fits in, and they'll be dealing with Mr. Hirschberg and his firm. So we're going to be dealing tonight a lot with the posting and how we're going to let everybody know about it and the timing of everything. That'll be, there may be a meeting a month, it may not be, depending on what's going on. We heard the developer, he said yes. They'd love to meet the residents at some point, it's right down location. There used to be a West Albany Neighborhood Association, I don't think it exists anymore. So, if I were you guys, I would keep your eyes out for notices around the area where we'll post them to make sure that you're all aware. So that you can sit down with them privately to another maybe more detailed presentation by him, but also to get a lot of your questions answered about the project. And that'll be coming. Their next proposal before us of anything definite will probably be months down the road. They have a process where they'll meet both with the city of Albany and our planning people. They'll sit down and talk about the ins and outs of the technicalities of the project. So that before it appears before us, it'll take on a little bit more formal scope than what you've seen here tonight. So they know if something doesn't work technology wise, doesn't work infrastructure wise, they've had to make changes in that respect. That's the type of thing that will finally come before us as a concept plan. So that's moving forward, that'll be months down the road. The urgency now is then to present their application to get on our agenda for next month, to make it so that that whole process can start. But, and I strongly encourage you to attend any and all meetings. Like I said, we're not taking questions and comments tonight because it's so preliminary, it just wouldn't be structured well. But we will be taking comments throughout the process. So we don't want you to be bad for it. I know a few of you in this room won't be bad for it. Well, with that, I would like to take a 5-minute recess so we can meet our board members, just walk to the door. And then we're gonna carry on with the bureaucratic stuff that I mentioned before. So feel free to take off if you want, stay if you want. Pleasure having you all here. You can take the private conversations out the hall, so, you know, everybody can. We do have a question that you gotta talk about. Well, in the original legislation, we talked about having the meeting very accessible to the area, the neighborhoods. When we, there's a lot of folks tonight. I just got an offer from the West Orange Firehouse. They've got a new huge screen coming in, maybe 5 foot gold. We do a first meeting where we have real plan, 15-foot screen, so things a lot great. So, you know, each one will be noticed differently possibly. But for now, I think the goal should remain to love the folks for the immediate future. Does anybody have an issue with that? I don't think we need a motion or anything stuff, so, I think we're fine with that. Now, the most important thing is the day of the week. You know, I know what we've made, and then the people in town, Tuesdays and Thursdays are terrible because of zoning and planning. Then Monday seems to work for me. I'm not dictating it's got to be Monday, but I don't know if there's a consensus that Mondays work. On Monday working. As far as the week of the month, again, selfishly, only because I'd rather be out 2 nights in 1 week than every week. I was looking at the 3rd Monday of the month. But I really only want to set up meetings 2 months in advance. That way, you know, we could plan time for notice. At least then that we know we got something that we wanted to see something quicker, we can move it up. You know, and go from there. So unless somebody has an issue, you know, our next meeting, and I know Craig's not going to be around now.
I don't either. For the next one, the 20th.
That'd be it's a holiday.
No.
So you're not going to be here. The purpose of that meeting is to receive the application that we're going to vote on tonight. It's up on the screen now. Receive the application to get the secret process going. More of a formality, so I don't know if you really want to be here, then we'll do it another night. But we still have 3 people here, I think you mentioned, on that week. February 20th, it's the President's Office. So I don't know how that works through. Well,
Oh, whatever works for you guys, we'll make it.
don't say that.
It's last word. It's certainly has to sell this mic.
Let's put it at the February 20th for now. The goal of that meeting is to see the application. Have the engineer here. So think of it, forward we begin and a secret process of that.
So the issue with the 20th, right? So it's gonna get holiday. I'm not gonna be here. So is it being able to set that stream up? And I don't know if how that fits in for my friends and all.
We were planning work today.
So can we do it on 27th? I don't want to do it on the 15th.
27th, that doesn't mean the vice chairman.
It's great. That would be easy to do next. For whatever it's worth, Mr. Chairman, I won't be here on the 27th.
Hopefully.
So we're back. So we're looking at the 13th or the 13th.
13th is 2 weeks from today. I love this.
Is that enough time?
Well, we've done enough time about the application and that's basically what.
That'd be a real push for us to get the application looking ready to consent.
That's the case then, it's within our purview to have it in March.
I'm fine with that. Okay.
The Mr. Chair, maybe one of the advantages of the time we're at our time schedule is to get the city and the town departments to review our DCC and our PRC process.
But are you going to start that without the application?
We don't, we do, that's how we do it now. There's no live application.
So then we can't report that.
We'll do that in February and we have
Set a March meeting.
yeah, right.
Some are six.
Go with the PRC.
We all have to review all of February, yeah.
No.
Or just keeping on the schedule?
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
March 20 may be your third Monday
Yeah.
of March.
How's that? That work for anybody?
I'm fine.
That's fine.
March 20th? All cruises.
And you want to, you said 2 months, but you want to do 2 meetings ahead, because then you look at April 17th.
And I'm open then too.
April 17th, anybody? Going once?
I'm sure once I get home, I'd like to say.
Yeah. No, it's not suggested.
I mean, since everybody in the audience, once that process starts, it starts a very long process of very thorough reviews, environmental reviews, reviews of infrastructure, reviews between the different town departments, the applicant, the city, and the applicant. We're going to join forces and do it together, which will save not only time, but also make it easier so everybody's on the same page. So that's why we have that meeting in March. There may not be another meeting for 3 months. You know, so, and it's at our discretion to set them up, renotice them, get them out to people, let everybody know.
Chairperson, we designate the third Monday of every month until more or less changed. That way, people can kind of like try to reserve that. If you don't use it, you don't use it. That's not the current.
I have no problem doing it, just as long as they're not noticed that way prior to.
I think we could just send out one notice and it's the third Monday of every month. And check the website, see whether it's canceled, and we'll know that 5 days ahead of time or not. Publish that notice, publish it, that it's the third Monday of every month unless changed. And we can all kind of take our calendars and try to reserve the third Monday now. You don't have to do this, it's your choice.
Anybody have an issue with that?
I think it's a good idea.
Even if the third will go from there? We'll give it a try.
Third Mondays of the month, yeah.
Look at the meeting schedule. Make a motion to as the meeting schedule, for Mondays. Unless otherwise notice or otherwise canceled.
So, how many seconds?
All in favor? Any opposed? No, that's good. Now, as far as the location, like I said, I think for the next couple will be here. I think the biggest issue that's gonna come up is that camera right there, whether or not it provides what we want, is transparency for people to see. But we've already looked into having professional things set up here, but it's gonna be in the thousands of dollars every meeting, and it's just not a real possibility. Now, whether or not we decide to do something where, I mean, we have a fully captive thing in town hall. We have our meeting where they're totally filmed, and we could use that as a big, the real public meeting, so people can tell. Those are issues we'll take up, I think, down the line. Now, the first couple plan on being here unless noticed different.
Yeah, we did a little field test beforehand, so we're pretty good about turnout, but we'll check it tonight. And if we notice any issues, we'll talk with Bill and his team about things that we can tweak.
And the good thing about this is that if we do decide to do a strong like they propose, very close to the neighborhood again, and that can pick up and move to where we want to. Yes. So, okay, that's done. As far as the public notices for future meetings, who are we proposing, Guy, to do that? How has it been done? Has it been done?
Well, that's a discussion. I think prior to the third Monday, it was published again in both newspapers. But I don't think we have to publish it every time. Once we've set a schedule, we'll have to publish it. I understand the planners have control over their websites and you have some kind of a button that their citizens can check what the happenings of this first project overlay district plan, et cetera. So it's not my anticipation to have to go out and spend it in a newspaper public notice every time. The next time for sure, because we didn't know what we were doing until we got it. But once it's every month of the third Monday, unless you ask the developer, if you agree, I don't think we have to go into publish notice. We can post a notice and the internet. That each municipality.
But you're still proposing, posted notes on the site.
Yeah.
For every meeting, not just the one.
Yeah.
But then we do move the date for a meeting.
Oh, the date's got to, whatever that reason might be, and that might be. We have to go back.
I just think with a project this size, we don't want to leave people out. I don't want to get to October and have a bunch of screaming people at the meeting, rightfully so, because they've never been noticed, never heard of plaque. But, no, we want to make sure, I'm sure the applicant wants us in the front page of the paper, like, we got it, that's great.
And I like the clause tonight too. I'll get that on.
And that's a huge thing. But, you know, it's just my point, that I want to make sure that we're noticing it frequently a lot. I'll make sure it really gets in there, adjacent and project.
Well, there's three avenues, right? There's publication, there's posting, and there's mail. Right, which we do with the town, at, you know, a certain point. So the question is, which of those at what point? I would like to get a, you know, not our typical posting of they have wetlands in paper on the site. I'd like to work with Bill and his team to get a sign at the site that maybe directs people to, for example, a YouTube feed, because we can embed a lot of information into that feed. And let that serve as the landing page, not be tied to the city's website or the town's website. And maybe we do something like that, that's pretty transparent.
We normally post things with a colored notice. So we had, I was just talking, we had two like signboards on one maybe near every road and one 2/3 down the site. With a 3x4 piece of plywood on it, so we could then post those signs and make those signs a lot bigger. And then have by 11, so make them 1x17 or maybe 22x34. And put them on there for a piece of polyethylene over the top, and keep out of the weather. We post that, we have a physical posting of it, a lot of people like to walk by and see it.
Mr. Goldman, do you have a electronic sign out front?
There's the van right there.
Yeah, all right. That would help a lot.
Yep. Very easy to do.
Yeah.
What about families? I mean, what exactly do we do in the town? Oh, we leave it up to, well, that's pretty different, because a lot of those, you know, either a mailing or and deliver a notice, but within how many feet of the project? It tends to 500, right?
You have some sites that 250 or 300 mailings out there, now we're on a very dense area. And the notice required everybody within 200 or 500 feet of the site. You know, it's here, I wouldn't even know where the boundaries of where we want to mail the notice to, again.
Well, I
If
think
it's small, people will be upset if they're out of it. If we make it too large, they own the tax.
Well, why don't, can we just do a radius of 135?
We could, yeah, again. You might do it rather than radius, do it by blocks along streets in Sand Creek Road or Everett Road and the other point by a block down there by that area. You have to figure out what it is. It's, you know, I think it had, we did that much area. 300 to 400. Posters.
Yeah, I know what I think would be important, by the time you come back to the March meeting, that you come back to the plan as to how you want to notice me. And then we'll tell you if it's good enough.
Will do.
I think it's a very workable solution.
Absolutely.
And I don't see where we'll have an issue.
Forward.
Bill, do you have the website for this project itself?
So, Sean, the answer is we have not set up anything for the board. Have you done anything, Sean? I mean, you just mentioned it's all on website. You guys posted on your, on the town site, and then Brad posted on Albany. What are you talking about its own site? You certainly can,
Yeah.
but I don't want to start controlling, I totally will control it. I don't want to start controlling something that you guys want to control. But this is all new and flexible, so we're trying to work it out.
Yeah, it seemed, getting things set up, the most important part was having a clear, communication line with the public. So that's why this meeting has been streamed to YouTube. It's not on the public meeting platforms. This product has its own, handle in YouTube. So it's first prize, it's YouTube and first prize redevelopment. So it's got a static landing page. We put some notes in there. We have set up a Dropbox folder, much like we do for regular planning projects. It's also a Dropbox folder, which I can coordinate with Brad, deep wax, and like be able to add and delete. I don't know if we want to do all that, but we figure that out.
Essentially, it's a one drive.
It's similar, yeah.
I do like the idea of having YouTube be the landing page, and then links to wherever else you may need to go from there.
Here's the issue I have with YouTube being the landing page, because every screen is going to have its own page.
No, it's we have a channel. We have a specific channel.
Oh, okay, so you have a whole channel and then you group all of the stuff together.
All the content is gonna live.
Okay. And what about like if they want the site plans that we saw tonight, will they be available on the channel, not for the YouTube feed, but separately for people to view?
Yeah, we've taken the link that we have in Dropbox and have put that into the channel itself.
Yeah.
So if you go to the about page, you'll see that.
Okay.
And then the link to that channel is going to be on your website and your website, I would assume. So if someone goes to the city of Albany, you guys have already set something up, so it'll say for information, whatever you're going to say about maybe next meeting, whatever. But it would still say, for more information, go to that link of that channel. Can you do that?
Yeah, ours wouldn't be like the official site, but we would link to it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So at least if that way someone goes to the city planning and it says first prize consolidated planning board, and it's going to have a link to really is, and I think Mark had mentioned it, a repository. You need one repository for everything, right? And it sounds like this is it.
So the way it looked today on the town's webpage, there's a banner on the bottom that shows the meetings. If you click the first prize consolidated planning board, it's sent you to the YouTube channel.
And who is, which department is going to populate that? Because it shouldn't be those of us.
Brad and I I think we'll figure that. We're happy to do it, but I don't want to deprive Brad.
I think that's a point like being chairman.
That's right.
I don't think Brandon could
You
do
made
it.
it seem first, I think. But, so, I mean, yeah, right now, okay, my office has the ability to access that. We're happy to open up to Brad. That into it, but for now,
Well, again, what I'd like to see,
they're not raising their hands.
what I'd like to see, if nothing else, is by the March meeting, Sean,
Yes,
this stuff is all squared up. So that by the time there's an actual formal application before us, that people can go on to the thing, click on something and find it and be transparent about it.
project folder's up in line today, and it has the intermunicipal agreement. The YouTube channel is live today. It's gonna have this screen. It also has the video that Bill had previously shared showing the demolition of the site, so people get some context to it. I think we just have to work out. The team wants to propose the notices. I'm happy to, I think Brad and I are happy to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's
Okay. Next on the list, and so we know we're gonna talk about that again in March. But leave it up to the departments. They have to try to work away
absolutely.
before it comes to us. As far as skip a couple of things here, but, the record keeping for the board, I'm assuming Sean, you and I had talked, that's gonna fall to somebody at that desk over there. Right? To keep notes, to keep minutes, hopefully it'll be from the video record, but anyway.
Right.
So that was an easy one. Yeah, we talked about, and it's something we have to decide. I think when it comes down to the actual concept meeting, not another sketch meeting, but a concept and final, I think there should be stenographer. So that we catch everybody's comments, so that everything is well documented down the line. Now, unfortunately, with video, the microphone, sometimes you hear, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not, but I think we need to hammer out a agreement somehow for those 2 nights, nothing else, concept and final. That is what we're definitely gonna let public speak. I think that'd be very appropriate at that point to have a stenographer. So we'll have to figure that out moving forward. That was okay.
Yep.
As far as the designated outside engineer, I know some of it's discussed. Part of CHA is the town designated engineer for town of Colonnade. Worked with the town, I want to say 10, 12 years. For the planning board, I would love to propose that they be appointed, be our designated engineer. They will boost her shirt extensively, so the ticket on the board is familiar with it. In this case, they'll be our engineer, protect the interest of the city and the town, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of how this thing fits within things, and have suggestions and things can go along. They'll report as they get reports from development. They issue reports here to public meeting. They also issue written reports to the different planning departments as we go through the process. So is there an issue with that?
No, I'm agreeable to that.
So we need a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Very to appoint CHA as our designated engineer.
And it should be noted, the fees for that are paid by the developer. And they're fully aware of that.
Yes.
And a second.
And the interest of full disclosure, an employee of CHA, who sometimes serves as the engineer, is on my board of directors of the Regional Planning Commission. Does not present a conflict, or notify the public of that certain funds.
Do we have a second? Yeah. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Sure, we get a whole host of graphs up. And I urge, well, to start the process. That also takes the place of the bottom of funds. I'm sure that'll be worked out between the developer and the TDE. We call them TDEs. What are we going to call this? Board designated. The PDE is going to. Oh, that's what that was. Oh, thank you very much. So they'll work out that the funding issue as far as that goes. The site plan application form, it is up on the TV now. We did not have the photocopy here, and for whatever reason, this is one of those things mentioned in the legislation, and then nobody can find whatever was supposed to be attachment. There is no attachment. So this is the attachment. It's a fairly simple form, but I don't know if you want to go through it. Craig, yeah, either one of them doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I can go through it. It's very simple. You gotta, first page is literally name of owner, engineer. Very substantial. And this, just so you know, this was drafted, it was taken, some Connolly, some of Albany, and they go just put the applications together. State's not the senior. It's same, authorized agent. We own the property, so that's fine. Project description, your typical, what's the work going to consist of, type of development. Next. These are all the permitted uses, and it just says check ones that apply and all the permitted uses from the code. That's all they are, with check ones that apply and description. And very standard. This is the buffer area, is just saying, do we have the 25-foot buffer around all boundaries? Check yes or no. Consistent with the concept plan, parking, number of spots, conforms with the site plan. So basically now what starts here is, what we did, we took the review standards that are in the and we numbered those. So number one, conforms with site plan. Traffic, pedestrian safety, circulation and parking. Next, screening, landscaping, drainage, water and sewer from the overlay zone district. Lighting, fire protection, impact on adjacent land uses, taken right out of the code. Signage, and then if we are requesting any waivers, which one does. And is that probably it? Oh, and then just the usual, the submittal requirement checklist. Application form, which is just photos of the property, survey, site plans and elevation, full environmental assessment form, project narrative, and then dams, reports, water, sewer, stormwater, traffic, and any additional information determined necessary by the usual stuff.
Anybody have any questions on that? Anybody have any objections?
What's the fee associated?
Is that?
Staff. But the Kansas Township right now, it's staff.
Okay.
What industry? Good feeling.
Yeah, we're glad to recommended, kind of recommendation.
So, do I have a motion to accept this form, the official form?
So,
Second? Second. Mark? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Thank you. So one question here. Do they need to appear before the coordinated zoning board, to get zoning verification?
No, it's zoned for what it is.
I get that. There's a zoning board for some reason, so.
We're requesting hearings. Which we're not seeing.
There's nothing that violates the hearings here. But I guess to the
Consolidated zoning board mentioned, but they never actually have a meeting.
I get that, but for the record, you need something that shows that the zoning verification is taking place.
This is one addition.
We have that down, right? I don't believe so, because of the way the local law is written. That actually establishes that the proposal that was submitted was an accepted concept. So I think that the way the law is written is already, that's that.
What would you say?
I'm happy with that.
I got a lawyer shaking his head over there. Over there.
Once you, this, the top of this, reducing what is attached to the,
Okay.
agreement or the zoning. So this is what it's expected, just as the shape of it, but not any particular.
I just asked a question, so it didn't come up 6 months and understood. That's on the objective process because zoning verification is going to take place. I'm satisfied that those are your tables, what they're talking about. We'll go from there. I will remind everybody too, that we don't have microphones here, so because we're preparing your board audience, you gotta make sure you speak up. Believe me, I remind my own board that many times. Right, Kurt? All right, so that takes us to the site plan application form. I've already talked to Bill about his review with the city and town, joint meetings, hopefully, but we can get that process going.
We'll get, Fred Sean on that.
Okay, I mean, and that also about the BTE, and that what you do, yeah. So that by the time we get this back in March, if we start looking at it, we're starting to see a better picture.
Yep.
Of what we're doing. That takes care of that. Now, probably the hardest thing here is the consideration regarding establishing bylaws, rules, and procedures. Now, it did have a thing in the first legislation that we have to do that. And so I guess, you know, tell me, or somebody tell me, but it says that under Article 3A2, Consolidated Planning Board should recommend rules of procedure which shall be effective upon adoption by a majority of members of the Consolidated Planning Board, signed by the chairperson and filed in the town clerk of city. So,
You and Cal, do you have any rules of engagement?
or engage. I'm not sure.
So, in anticipation of this, Brad and I have discussed, and here with me, the city's rules. And so I think that we were working through a set of rules that were familiar to the city and not quite too foreign to the town.
I don't think we have said.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, no. All right, well, listen, we're gonna put that on the agenda for the 20th also. Right?
I think we can circulate it to the members before.
Yeah, no, so.
Adopt that.
Yeah, if you're ready, you can go to that on the water. Now, that's all I had on this list here. And about the agenda item, I think we covered it. Anybody have anything else?
So on the 20th, will we be prepared, but we will have not reviewed the EAF then? Subsequent meeting, we'll be prepared to declare the agencies that will be.
So on the EAF, we'll start that process. Once we have an application in, which will consist of a completed EAF, we'll start that coordination process.
So you will start coordination upon receipt or the week.
We'll be started on receipt. So we'll start.
As soon as we get the material in, all the agencies are within. They'll circulate following all the agencies. Start the meeting.
Yeah, so yeah, once we get that in, we'll start that ball rolling administratively, start the clock ticking, and you come at we meeting for everything. So we get that,
Yeah, we have all the agencies that are aware.
This got partially circulated.
I think we'll go.
All the rules of procedures will file.
Talk about that. I think certainly not putting on the IDK.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do that. We're gonna work.
So you circulate the intent to serve as lead to receive it.
Yeah. Because the county's gonna have some review on this. Not necessarily the state.
I don't see any reason to object to that.
Okay, so we'll need to use 239. So, but we will, this board will have to make a declaration to the agency in some way, or the letter goes out. Review.
I think that is Sean suggested, the idea of these documents. And a cinema or a way to validate claim for a black community engagement.
I mean, is there any reason that you don't like?
Well, no, I mean, we have to do the administrative process appropriately. So if we want to declare ourselves the agency, we have to take action to do that. To the next meeting.
I have no objection to doing it. I think some of the law actually specifically talk about.
Yeah, yeah, you have to notify everybody within these 30 days or either a permanent consent. Then you can. Tell them.
But what would that motion be?
Well, I think the move would be to address any concerns about the EAF being received, is that we know the size and scope and scale of this project. I think it'd be fair to think the motion could be upon receipt of a completed EAF, the Consolidated Planning Board intends to serve as the agency and direct staff for the agency.
I'll make that motion.
Sounds good. On the question,
To be clear, Sean, so you're saying, board is determined that it wants to act as the agency, and it's authorizing staff to circulate the notice and the records documents upon receipt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? No. That's it. As to the board rules and procedures, do you know who made this up?
Yeah, I believe it came from Bill. He wanted me to take a look at it, and I didn't circulate it, except to some people, but
I did get, can you circulate this to the board
yeah, I can.
so that we can go around to the next meeting?
We had put something together, we followed the same thought process that was done with the application, which is, what are the city, what does the city have, what does the town have, and how do we have everything that we find? So we took the city's rule bylaws, whatever they're called, and trying to make them make sense in like this.
They seem pretty clear cut to me. But can you just forward them to the clerk,
Yes, it can.
so that we can make an official vote on the 20th of March also? And it should not tie us up. On the 20th. Your. I think that's it. Anybody have anything else?
Could I just circulate the potential of having a DCC, TRC combined meeting on Thursday the 16th? I don't know whether not either the DCC or TRC.
February?
That would be, so we can't,
Okay, this is strictly for,
We can't do that.
why not?
Just have other meetings scheduled for that day.
November 20th. Thursday is normally the day that.
26, or we would have to reschedule like that.
I can pick a date so we'll get it out there. All we really have, we have the data we need. Send a concept plan out. We send out the concept plan and we have basic shown on it. And a verbal description, a brief description of the site plan for normal about PCC and the DRC requirements. So we'll prepare to do that whenever we can. So I would like to get signal data that we need both DRC and PCC schedule.
I have done the whole view. Yeah, and the one done before March 20th.
Yeah,
So we've got a good window of time to clear dates.
and if by chance, this doesn't, if it- March 20th is the date we set it today. If this doesn't fall together properly, we can move that date. Okay? So, there's no reason to rush it. We do it right, we do it right the first time. So, my advice is professional. Take your time, get it done. If it's not done by the 20th, we do it on the 17th of February.
Well, meanwhile, the TRC and DCC meetings are very valuable. Yes.
Oh,
Are we looking at sooner rather than later? Some things take a long lead time, and some things don't. So the things that take long lead time, sewer and water and stormwater are pretty standard, but again, traffic, everything else, you have to.
Traffic party. Always. But to the point, these dates are flexible, allowing in more than the dates of the meeting are flexible. So you just gotta get back to the powers of the big, so we can have more meeting. Right.
Yep, so figure it out.
Anybody got anything else? Make a motion to adjourn?
Thanks for your time, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very well. It's a.
I rescheduled this one.
Well,